Hi, my name is Nick with Machine Gun Dad. Welcome back to the channel. Today, on this episode of our Field Strip series, we have a Turkish military contract Hotchkiss model 1926 in 8mm Mauser. One thing to note about it real quick before we get into the disassembly, it does have the front anti-aircraft sight, but it does not have the rear anti-aircraft sight. Now that that's all said and done, let's go ahead and take it apart. We've moved in close. First step on disassembling this particular firearm is, first and foremost, you got to make sure it's clear, but this one requires you to charge the weapon in order to take the barrel assembly off. So, charge the weapon. No round came out, which means it is a fully cleared weapon system. So with the charging handle to the rear, you'll see this disassembly lever here, and there's this little tab that juts into the front end of the barrel lock. You push that down and you can see it disconnecting from the barrel assembly, and then you rotate 90 degrees and the whole barrel assembly will come out the front. One thing to note on the barrel is your gas tube underneath the barrel. There is this little knurled nut right here. You could take that out in order to clean the inside of the gas tube assembly, but this particular firearm is tuned into the ammunition that we shoot, so we don't want to mess with that to mess up how the gas system operates. But on the back end here, you pull this shield off and you will have the rest of your gas tube assembly right there. That is the last we are going to be doing with the front end of the firearm until we put it back together. Easy as that. On the receiver of the firearm, I'm going to pull back on this catch here, swivel the entire feed tray dust cover up, and because it's still a charged weapon, we are going to hold onto the charging handle, pull the trigger, release. You can see the bolt carrier coming out the front end, pivot out and up on your feed tray. And on the back end, you see this pin that runs through both ends of your receiver. Just going to push that forward, pull it out, and then the entire front end receiver will come out. Now if this piece comes out, it is just the guide for the recoil spring that's in the stock. There is in fact a little hole right back in there where this pin locks into. Just snap that back in, and that is all we are doing with the lower. Moving back to the receiver, you're going to grab your charging handle, pull the charging handle to the rear, grab onto your bolt and bolt carrier, pull the whole thing out, and that's it with the receiver. On your bolt and bolt carrier, there are pins that you can use to disconnect the bolt from the bolt carrier. That's a pain. We're not going to be doing that. This is field stripping. This does not pertain to field stripping. That's if you need to replace the bolt in any capacity. There is your fully field stripped Hotchkiss. So let's go ahead and put her all back together. First step of reassembly is going to be putting your bolt and bolt carrier back into the receiver. Key thing to note about it: if this ends up unlocking in some way and canting upwards like that, it's not going to go together correctly. You need to make sure that everything is flush and level. So if you try and put the bolt and bolt carrier back into the receiver with it canted up, it's going to catch on the inside of the receiver. You need to make sure it's parallel. And we're going to be using our good old friend gravity. Pick your receiver up. There is cutouts on the side of the bolt that line up perfectly with the back end of the receiver. You just line those up. You see how it slides into that little trench that's on the side, that little cutout, that gravity feed all the way through. If it catches, it's probably because as it's feeding down, the bolt carrier slipped a little off to the side. It needs to go through this collar here. You can just move it and it should drop straight through. It's big hole, hard to miss. And then from there, make sure that the charging handle did in fact catch and grab onto your bolt and bolt carrier. That's an important part. While the bolt and bolt carrier forward, take your lower, and there are, I don't know how well you can pick it up, but on the sides you can see that there are ribs along the receiver that will slide in to these little cutouts on the bottom end of your lower. So you will make sure your bolt and bolt carrier is still forward, take the firearm, line those two up, slide it all the way forward. Now it's going to be under spring tension, so on the other end, take your pin. What I like to do is get the pin started, pull back on the upper receiver, use the other hand, push it through. Now your receiver is connected to the lower again. You are going to want to pull your charging handle all the way to the rear to get the bolt and bolt carrier back into the back end of the receiver in order to put your barrel assembly back on. Now, key thing to know, if this lever has swung out towards the front in this manner, when you go to put it back together, it is going to be a pain to get apart because this is supposed to be under, not over. If it goes over, it will lock the bolt and barrel assembly together, but it will not lock into the receiver, and you're going to have to fight with this in order to get it unlocked again to put the barrel back on. So make sure it goes under, not over. With that unlocked, take your barrel assembly and at a 90-degree angle with the charging handle facing down with the bipod legs. Keep those two in line and it'll go together simple. If you put it through the other direction, it just won't lock together. You can go ahead and try and put it together this direction. It will not go any further forward, and when you try and rotate, it won't even catch on the lugs. So make sure when you put it together, your charging handle is down with your bipod legs, and then you can just rotate over, snap that lever back up, and now your barrel is reattached to the rest of the receiver. Top cover comes up. Make sure that your little dust cover is facing towards the left of the receiver, and your feed end is going to the right of the receiver. Take back end of it, lock that down, rotate the front forward, and make sure that it is parallel. If it's canted up at all, you will in fact see this little cutout here. You don't want to see that. When that's all put together, hold on to the charging handle, squeeze the trigger, run the whole thing forward, drop your dust cover, drop your top cover down, and that is it fully reassembled. And there is your fully field stripped and reassembled Turkish military contract Hotchkiss 1926 with the cool little front anti-aircraft sight. Shame about the rear sight, but having the front one is still pretty darn cool. I'd like to thank you for coming to the channel and following me along with this journey of pulling apart an amazing piece of history. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Rumble. We do have some pretty cool stuff lined up coming up onto Rumble. We're going to be trying out some new things, as well as we're trying to migrate as much as we can over to Rumble, because YouTube is currently not giving us the best experience, as you guys have been well made aware of. So, thanks for coming to the channel. Please check us out on Rumble. Gonna be having some cool stuff coming up there. Thanks again.